Look, I think this pullback is, it's real. Look, I view it as it's all related to what's happened in Korea, right? In terms of like the Kospi, what we've seen there. It's just this white knuckle moment that's going to be nothing more than a breather.
You go to China a lot. The zeitgeist, without question, is about China developing through DeepSeek and others 90% of the efficacy of AI for 1/10 the cost. Is it legit worry?
No, because for the first time in 30 years, the U.S. is ahead of China when it comes to tech. And the reality is it's not just from NVIDIA to what we see with the models with Anthropic, to the hyperscalers, to the software companies like Palantir and others. Look, could they do it cheaper? Yeah. Are they winning on robotics? Are they winning when it comes to energy because of nuclear? But when it comes to the AI race, I don't even think it's a question in terms of right now where, U.S. is versus China. And that's why I think some of those fears, and we've seen like the DeepSeek moments and some of the others, I think a lot of that are more fictional sort of fears.
Microsoft, stock is off 23% year to date, trades at 20 times earnings. Talk to us about Microsoft here.
Look, I think it continues to be somewhere between a head scratcher to just a table pounder opportunity. In my view, very similar to like when I think about Alphabet a year ago, in terms of view, like they were done, AI was going to crush search, the DOJ was going to break it up. Look, I think with Microsoft, I think the issue is just tied to OpenAI. And right now, whether it's Oracle, Microsoft, I think being tied to OpenAI is a negative relative to Anthropic being golden child.
Why is that the case?
Because I think Anthropic relative to the model, Claude, golden child, best model out there. I think anyone tied to OpenAI right now, that's been negative for Microsoft. Two is, look, when you look at Azure growth, it's been strong, but maybe not the overwhelming point where there's a view that Amazon and Google have started to narrow the gap. Copilot clearly had stumbled out of the gate. So right now, that is a penalty box stock that I think is ultimately a $550 stock.
Does a penalty box stock have to have active management helping the stock here? Do they do a share buyback? I got a dividend growth, 5-year dividend growth of 10.2%. Put some steroids on it. I mean, is that what they have to do?
Well, I think that Nadella and the team, it's getting to a point here where they're gonna have to do something. Look,
21 multiple, Paul. To your point.
I know.
But then it goes back to like if you look at Apple, if I told you a year ago where Apple would be today relative to maybe some of the doomsday fears, a lot of that was also like Cook, one of their main pieces of success is that despite some of the bumps and the sort of roller coaster they saw when it came to what they've done on the capital side.
I agree with that, but come on, they're not pissing away money on AI like everybody else. Does Microsoft have to adjust their timeline of spending on all this CapEx AI stuff?
Well, I think the market's telling Microsoft, show us the execution, show us the growth. Otherwise, you're going to have to get curtailed. And the market's saying that not just to Microsoft, but to Meta. Because for Meta, like investors no longer want to see dog ate the homework type quarters when you're spending CapEx like that. For Google, they've succeeded massively. So when they do equity raise and things like that, investors are fine with it. Now, look, they have obviously lost engineers and others and with Anthropic, and that caused some of the sell-off. But I just think now you're starting to see a separation in terms of you can't just own the names as a broader trade. They each have their own sort of characteristics that are ultimately going to drive their growth.
Dan, I don't think we've spoken to you since SpaceX has been in the market. I'm not even sure if at Wedbush you're covering that stock, but what's the conversations? What are the conversations you've been having with clients about SpaceX here?
Look, I think just like we'll see with Anthropic and OpenAI, it's something where it's been this juggernaut that one way or another investors like it or hate it. It's definitely a huge conversation. I think the big thing is that investors are more looking at it as a proxy for what would be within OpenAI or an Anthropic or what it says about the broader tech trade. And I think this is one where it's almost been investors are viewing it a little as a proxy, and that states to what I think is important in terms of broader tech. Look, it's our view, like in the AI revolution, whether it's space, chips, cybersecurity, so this is going to spread. You could talk about it on the SpaceX side. I could even talk about it on the Caterpillar side.
Yep.
So I think you're really seeing right now this AI revolution spreading to second, third, fourth derivative, and investors figuring out how to own it.
Is Microsoft a software company? Do you pool them together with Salesforce and Accenture? And I don't do that. They're like how do they convey that to the public other than the CEO's wonderful interview in the Wall Street Journal the other day?
Look, it's really, you have to show it in Azure growth. You have to show it in numbers that investors start to feel that Microsoft basically owned the enterprise is an acceleration story from a growth perspective, acceleration from what will ultimately be free cash flow. And I think right now they are lumped with Salesforce. They are lumped with ServiceNow.
Yeah, exactly. What's the target price again on Microsoft?
$550, because to me, look, and I just, when I look at Microsoft, that continues to be the one. Meta in the penalty box for a good reason. Microsoft, I think, is way disconnected by what ultimately is fundamentally
That's up 47%, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's like a bright, shiny green coat that you can't even concentrate. Alexis, the rods and cones of my retina are shot when he walks in. That's a Bill Cosby line.
I mean, the shirt sport coat combination today is particularly troublesome, but I don't know how he even got.
I think
into,
it's a kind of like. I think it's kind of like TK. It's like Keen style.
Yeah, it could be. It could be back. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Real quickly, Elon, does he roll up Tesla into SpaceX?
Well, we've said 80% chance that Tesla ultimately gets bought by SpaceX because for Musk, it's about having all the AI under one ecosystem, under one control. It's also and that continues to be our view as a data play.
Then how do you respond to really, really competent people like George Noble, founder with Peter Lynch of Fidelity Overseas, who's harshly critical of just the core financial dynamics of Tesla? How do you respond to somebody that esteemed?
What I'd respond is that there is pressure on Tesla to show robotaxis, autonomous growth, soft. In other words, like show the actual numbers over the next 6, 9, 12 months. When are they going to do that?
Come on, I ended up here with Ed? Who's our tech guy?
Ludlow.
Yeah. Ed Ludlow. I ended up with Ed Ludlow. They're in 3 cities with like 42 robotaxis. It's a starter project.
But ultimately, it's the view that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, when it comes to autonomous and it comes to robot, that Tesla will really be the one that kind of owns the market. Look, market is basically saying, like, if you look at things today, could you justify the valuation? No. Market's saying, look around the corner. I'm going to say where this could go 2, 3, 4 years. And to your point, in terms of the skeptics, like, that will determine if the bears will be wrong. And I believe they will be. But it comes down to execution from Musk and Tesla.